Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, and welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. This is Gary Wilson, your host. We're glad to have you back. If you haven't done so, would you please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast? It's on 30 different channels, including your favorites, Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio. And while you're online doing that, go to globalinvestoragent.com. It's a brand new website we just created. The old website's still there, Real Estate with Gary Wilson, with all the tools and strategies and books and things like that you can get for free. But Global Investor Agent is a group of agents across the U.S. and Canada that focus on the investors. They focus on us. I'm an investor, of course, you know that. They're trained, and we know they're trained because we trained them, and they're certified to work with investors, mostly in the residential world. We do a lot of commercial work too in that team. But grab yourself one of those guys, all right? And while you're out there, go ahead and check out Sunil Chillar in Jersey City, who's our guest today because he owns an exit franchise, and he's pretty good with the investing side too. So Sunil, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you doing the podcast today.
I appreciate it, Gary. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, give everybody a little bit of a background, how you got to where you are in business and how you landed in Jersey City and that type of thing. And then we'll jump into some examples and case studies and get people excited about investing in real estate,
Yeah, absolutely. Went to high school, college here. Started off as a VP, associate VP with a major brokerage firm, financial brokerage house. And everything was going great. In my mid-20s, I had 67 people working for me, 6-digit income, everything's all nice. And I went to a Tony Robbins event, walked on fire night number 1, and that changed my life. Went back next week to my office and gave my resignation in my 20s. Everyone wants to know what is wrong with me. So, back then, real estate was pretty hot market, and I've always wanted to get involved with it. This is going back 21 years now. Got involved with real estate. Did my very first flip, and I just got hooked. As of right now, I've probably done over 200 flips. I continue to buy property. I do own Exit Realty franchise here in Jersey City, New Jersey. One of the things that I love doing with my agents is, besides helping to grow them, show them how to invest, show them where the money is. I could have not done all of this and basically kept on, building, buying properties myself, but I love the fact of paying it forward, help people make money themselves. So I'm a very big proponent of that. Just do the right thing. So with that being said, many of the agents in my office, they would join me. They'll join me. We'll buy properties together, flip properties together, and it's a win-win for both parties. So it's transitioning yourself at some point in time from being a realtor, making a commission, versus converting yourself to an investor. That's really where you want to be.
Yeah.
So we all are getting old, and we want to do this for the rest of our lives. Yes, but there's a smarter way where, we build our bank account at the same time.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. One of my philosophies is, and actually the title of the podcast, which is Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast, is based on the Massive Passive Cash Flow method. And what that method is if you're in real estate, if you're an investor, you're already in the game of identifying, analyzing, negotiating properties. If you get your license, and this is interesting because in the old days, people used to say, and a lot of them still do, the old timers say, "I don't need to get a license. There's too many agents out there that'll do whatever you want." And for the most part, that's true because most agents end up falling into an indentured servitude. They're being called at 11 o'clock at night, skipping dinners and birthday parties and things like that. That's ridiculous. It doesn't have to be that way. But back to the point, you're already in the game of identifying and analyzing, negotiating properties, which is exactly what real estate agents do. So get your license because you can't buy everything. We all would like to, but it's just not, feasible. But you can help other people buy them and you earn a commission. And it's not at all like traditional real estate. We don't do open houses and balloons in the front yard and cookies in the oven. That's not our style. We work with investors. We work with people who are building a portfolio of income producing assets. And agents should be doing the same thing. If you're a licensee and you're not investing, that's like saying you work at Starbucks but don't like coffee, So agents should invest in real estate too. That's my philosophy. So Sunil, I knew when I saw your bio, I said we're gonna be best friends because you're doing exactly the right model. Multiple streams of income is where it's at. So let's get back to that then. You started out flipping. Now, I'm guessing it was back when Jersey City was not like it was today 20 years ago, but I've been there quite a bit, been to New York City quite a bit, and I've watched it change. It's an amazing place now. Jersey City's awesome, But what can you tell us about flipping where you are? Jersey City, Newark, Hoboken, and even going out a little bit slightly west than some of the other more rural areas,
I'll say this. 20 years ago, obviously a different market. For those who know Jersey City is totally different today versus back then because of so much growth in the proximity of New York City. Two things. When the market had crashed back in 06, 07, obviously it was a horrible period. Flip side of that, I took advantage of that situation in the sense where if you could help someone obviously save their property, first and foremost, that's what you should do. Always do the right thing. Mm-hmm. With that being said, there were many people who just wanted to get out of that situation. And I had bought properties pennies on the dollar, literally. So one thing I've noticed is when there's a major crisis like COVID, second major crisis here, but in recent times. But when there's major crisis taking place, yes, people are hurt, but at the same time, wealth and money is generated, and it's how do you the glass half full with water? How do you look at it? Is it half empty? Is it half full? As a person, what perspective do you take? What changes, do you just cry, hey, everything's hard, there's a problem? What do you do to change yourself, to engage in what's going on at that moment, to seize the moment and take advantage of it, not advantage of people? And again, I know I'm saying this time and time again, but I'm a proponent, do the right thing with people. So I took advantage of that and created massive wealth. COVID came about. I'll be the first to say, granted, there were debt, there were destruction. It was pretty bad. However, for me personally, COVID, and this is again me personally, COVID was the best thing that happened in my life because it sort of pumped the brakes and make you reset. Made everyone reset, basically. And what that did for me were basically, again, purchasing property. So through this period of time, again, I took advantage of the fact that there were properties out there to be purchased. And I did so. Now, when COVID first struck, again, there were a brief period of time when no one knew what the heck was happening and what to do. And we all, I'm sure, went through that period of time. But it was obviously a learning experience. It was something brand new for everyone. And we learned from there. And you grow. I'll say what Tony normally says. If you want great things to happen in your life, you personally need to make great shifts in your life. And I've made dramatic changes 21 years ago, which have helped me back in 06, 07, and have helped me again today during this period of time.
Yeah.
And, with my investors, just a funny little story. let's say 18 out of those 21 years of me doing real estate. The last 18 years, I've never put up a dime of my money, and I'm proud to say that in purchasing properties. OPM, other people's money. I've done that successfully well, where I have some doctors and a couple of attorneys, they throw money at me. Hey, what are we buying next? What's our next deal? So what I did with that, I basically transitioned the single family to multifamily. So it's just growth at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
If as an individual, if I could purchase, let's say 15, 20 homes a year, and this is running my company and I've, like I said, multiple streams of income. But if I'm going at a slow pace doing 15, 20 homes a year, I could buy one 200 unit apartment complex in one deal. So look at that shift. And again, Gary, you know it, and there's a lot of us know it. That's really where everyone wants to be, just that growth. And that's where I am right now.
Yeah. Well, I did the same thing. I started off, my first property was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch that I actually lived in with my partner, Socrates, and we rented out the other 2 rooms, and the other 2 persons rent, paid our monthly mortgage. We really living virtually for free. But when I get really serious about investing, I quickly got into the duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, and then a 5-unit, then a 9-unit, and then I made a big leap to a 78-unit. And I learned exactly what you're talking about. The scalability is so much more profound. The more numbers you get, the more units you get per purchase. So if you wouldn't mind, would you mind digging a little bit in that transition, going from the shingles? Oh, well, first off, on the shingles, were you just flipping them, or did you also start renting out some of the shingles to begin with, and then you got into the multi?
I flipped a few and I held on to a few. So I still own a lot of those properties as well. Okay. I still buy because there's, even in today's market, there's opportunity. So I still buy. I buy in different states currently. And I'm doing just tremendously well with that. With respect to the multifamily, I started that about 2 years ago on the multifamily. And with some of my partners, we've been doing pretty well. Some of them themselves own in excess of 3,000 to 5,000 units. With respect to the multifamilies, I'll just say this: it's a team sport. It is definitely tough to be able to do that yourself because there's so many moving parts. One of the other things with respect to multifamilies, and going back to even single families, you should have a mentor. You should have someone who have done it before, who have fallen down. We all suffer those financial setbacks when we first get started. You do not want to step, especially when you get into multifamily, you do not want to step on those financial landmines. It will cripple you. So you want to be or have, seasoned individuals on your team who could assist if necessary. On my team, obviously, we have our syndication attorney. We have, which I'm happy to say, we have a demographer on my team. Okay. So basically, wherever the part of progress is, we there. We are there before a lot of others. So we know where to buy. We buy a lot of times landlord-friendly states. Want to be, within an hour of a major airport. We want to make sure there's multiple industry around our properties. So, for instance, if there were a fewer than that, think about it. If one were to close, if one were to leave the state where your property is located in, you're going to have a problem with rents. So, we play it safe, and we're very conservative with our underwriting as well. To have multiple industries surrounding us.
Yeah. But I tell you what, two more things I want to talk about when it comes to the multifamily. One is the scalability, and let's save that for a second. The first thing is you mentioned you got your team, your syndication attorney, and other team members. Could you dig in a little bit about the syndication? So when you're buying a property now, do you ever buy them just on your own, or do you always buy them now as part of a syndication where you're a partner? And then what's that process like? But some of us know what that is. I've done them before myself. But for the listeners, they may need a little instruction. But what actually happens in a syndication? If you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot different than buying a single family home to flip. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
What I focus on our team, and I have at this point in time numerous brokers from throughout the country who would just call me and put deals on my lap. So we always vet in those deals. We always underwrite in those deals. But with respect to syndication, my partners as well, they would look at those deals. So my goal, my objective is raising the cash, raising the capital in order to purchase these type properties. So again, through syndication, we put our PPM, we put our documents together, get it out to our investors, showing them what the property, what their returns look like before anyone obviously makes a decision to do anything. At that point in time, collect the monies and move forward. So we make sure we have within our funds any CapEx, capital expenditure budget in there. So we have all our monies put together in order to go ahead and purchase the property. Now, in purchasing the property, we typically hold it 3 to 5 years because we need to obviously increase the value, increase the NOI of the property, and that takes some time. In doing so, we will basically upgrade the exterior of the property if we need to paint the building, landscape, change the sign on the building. We'll do all of those things. We want our tenants to know that, you know what, we want to make you happy, number one, and we want you to be in a safe environment where you are happy to come home to. So if we need to put up a fence for security reasons for our tenants, we'll do so. We then will go into the units themselves and upgrade the units, whether it's hardware, whether it's new countertop from Formica to quartz, we'll do so. Rip out carpet, new floors. Tenants, obviously, in this business know that there's going to be a rent bump, so everyone expects it.
Yeah.
So we obviously increase the rent through time. And once we could give our investors the returns that we have told them, we'll do so. Now, if we had said to them, there's a 5-year hold on this property, and let's say year number 4 rolls around, or year number 3 rolls around, depending on the market, and we could generate those returns to our investors, guess what? We are out. We'll sell the property and everyone's happy. One of the things we like our investors to come back and say to us is, where's the next deal? When can I give you my money? That's pretty much it. A lot of times what's also unique in syndication is the fact that we do cost segregation.
Yep.
So we basically pass that depreciation to all our investors as well. So it's an abundance of money that people are making, and it's beneficial for our investors. Obviously, 1031 exchanges. As you know, if anyone with a 401k, they could certainly invest in a syndication and not be taxed as well. So, we'll obviously tell you when it comes to 401ks, at least speak to your accountant as well. We'll tell you what needs to be done, but obviously speak to your accountant as well. Make sure you're comfortable and happy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, the cost segregation, one of the things we did, when I used to have my own independent brokerage, and we had a commercial division there too, and we also offered cost segregation services. Do you do that as a separate service offering, or do you make that part of the actual deal, or how does that look like? Hi, Gary here. Just want to say thanks real quick for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate you doing that. And all I want to do is take a quick minute to introduce you to the Healing House Foundation. Okay, so if you're watching this on video, I'm going to let you see it. If you're on podcast. You're not going to be able to see it, but you can see it in the click on the show notes on globalinvestoragent.com, and you can see, well, that's the main website, globalinvestoragent.com. And so it's a great place for you to connect, not just with me, but with all the agents we have around the country, and check it out. But more importantly, if you click on the Healing House Foundation, okay, you can read all about it. And this is a 501(c), totally voluntary. Nobody here makes a dime. So all the proceeds, 100%, go to local needs in your area where you live for people that need help, all walks of life. I mean, every one of us knows somebody that needs help. And this is our way to come back full circle in the world of real estate where we make so much money. Let's help those who are in need. Sometimes they need a helping hand. Sometimes they need to be taught how to fish, and sometimes they just need to fish. Sometimes they need both. So this is a way for you to participate. Check it out. All kinds of stories, examples. It's very flexible in that we can earmark funds for a particular need that you have in your area, as long as it's related to the need of housing. That's all. It doesn't matter what the underlying circumstances are. We pray for healing for everybody. So in any case, thanks for indulging me. Let's get back to the podcast.
We do that as a separate, it's separate from the deal. It's just, if you want to call it a give back to our investors.
Yeah.
So okay. We want repeat business. If we are making you money consistently, you're not going anywhere. If we deliver what we say we'll do, we'll have you there for life. So again, our business is based on obviously our reputation, and our business is based on us delivering what we promised.
Yeah. For everybody listening, really what we're doing there is it's basically a tax strategy. So if you think about depreciation, a building, let's just say 27 and a half year depreciation schedule, which is typical. The old days, you could do 39 years for commercial, 27 and a half for residential. Now, in most cases, people just do one. But then you have, what we call chattel. Chattel could be tools, equipment, appliances, refrigerators, stoves, automobiles, all these things that actually have different depreciation schedules. They're not 27 and a half years or 7 years or 5 years or 3 years. And yet most investors don't capture those in their tax returns. They don't account for them. So this is a way to account for those immediate tax breaks now, which affects directly your bottom line and your profitability. So it's a tremendous service for people so if you're out there working and you're in the New York and northern New Jersey area, you definitely need to reach out to Sunil, because a lot of people don't do that, and he does. So Sunil does. So, hey, Sunil, what now for people listening? Let's say there's a business owner out there, and the business has done well. Maybe the COVID virus helped them grow. So some businesses suffered like restaurants, but some businesses just took off, and they want to participate in a syndication. What can they expect? Like what generally is expected of them as far as their net worth, their income, and contribution? How much are they being asked to put into the syndication? If you don't mind touching on those kind of things, that would be great.
Absolutely. Depending on, if we do a 506B or a 506C offering, the minimum investment is going to be somewhere around $50,000. Mm-hmm. We're in the process as well, just of creating a fund, $100 million fund. So in another week or two, it's going to be 100% done. But just to go back, it's either 50 or 100,000. We do have accredited or sophisticated investors as well. So we're here to help people.
Yeah.
Here for all of us to succeed and make money as well.
Yeah. And how many, do you have a limit as far as how many investors you'll want to have in a syndication? Is that like you're cap it off at 20 or cap it off at 100, or as far as the number of individuals in there? Did you have any thresholds there?
We actually don't. And the reason for that, we have multiple properties that's in play right now. So, I could send an investor, let's say today, 2 or 3 PPMs. You choose which investment you'd like to be on. We are constantly looking for money. So obviously, if we have enough of a raise for property A that's being purchased, we'll come back to you and say, hey, listen, this is full right now. We'll put you on to the next deal. And, you send the money right back to you. We are not in the business of holding people's money. We just want at the end of the day, the expectations get set. These are the returns. We do a quarterly payout, distribution check, and the term is either three to 5 years. So that's set upfront.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what we do find is the majority of our investors have been in a syndication before. So the expectation is there. Obviously, like anything else, you need to educate people as far as what they are getting involved in. Last thing you need is someone giving you $50,000 and then calling you a month later, I need $1,500 to pay my rent. We do have a third-party company, just so you know. With that being said, have a third-party company who's going to vet any potential investor. So we just want serious, like-minded people.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So now I want to go back to something a few months ago, which is the multifamily and the scalability. So when you're doing a syndication, let's say you're looking for maybe a 100-unit building, maybe a 200-unit building. I'm going to have you tie this back to the fact that syndication, could be 3 to 5 year for the exit strategy. But what allows that is the fact that you buy a 100-unit building and you can probably raise the rents to increase the value. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like maybe do a case study, one of the ones you've recently done, or maybe this next one you're looking to do for this $100 million raise. What type of property are you looking for, and what are you looking for in the way of rents at time of purchase and time of exit strategy? And that would help people really understand multifamily relative to into syndications and how the two really tie together.
Sure. As a case study, there were one where we went in there and was just doing like a $50 to $100 raise in rent increase without really doing anything to the building. So it justified it because the markets were on the market. There are others where obviously we need to go in there and do the work to increase the value of it. I just lost my train of thought. There was something else, a different case study I wanted to go over with you.
Well, that's okay. It's really had to do with so let's say you're doing a raise, $100 million, and you have an idea in mind the type of property you want, number of units, and also the rent increase on a percentage. It could be hard dollars, but on a percentage basis, going from say $1,000 a month per room to $200 to $1,200 a month per room. With that $200 rent increase per room, that's what allows you to achieve your exit strategy. So that's kind of where I was going with that. But if you have an example, that would be awesome. Even if it's a smaller scale one, I think people will really realize this is a great way to get involved with investing, guys, where you don't actually have to be out there, feet on the ground, walking through buildings, doing inspections, things like that. You've got people like Sunil and his company that are doing that for you, and you simply take the profit. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to mention, if you think about it logically, and using the same example that you just did, if the rent is $1,000 and you're able to raise it by $200, if you have 100 units, 200 times 100 units, it's a lot of money monthly.
Yep.
So that just raises the value, the NOI of the building tremendously without really doing any hard lifting here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a lot with respect to multifamilies. One of the things we have noticed is there's a lot of mom and pop who is handling that aspect of the business, which is tough. It's really, you don't want to self-manage. You want a professional manager to manage these buildings. And on our team as well, we do have an individual who is a property manager. She herself has or owns over 6,000 units herself, and she's been in the business for 35 years. So you want that individual also on your team, or you actually need to hire someone like that to run your property, because self-managing is detrimental to your health, believe it or not.
Yeah.
As far as, the properties we look at, you obviously, like in any property, the income low, expenses are high. You need to turn that around. There's something called RUBS system, which you'd implement, which is basically it's a utility rollback program. Again, we don't need to get into depth on this conversation with it, but there are a lot of strategies in place with respect to multifamily where you could increase the income and decrease expenses on a property. And the key to all of this is in your underwriting. So you need to underwrite it correctly. You need to know what next year, what are the taxes? Because if you buy this property tomorrow, the taxes are going up. So you need to factor those numbers as well in your underwriting. So there's a lot that goes behind the scene. When you're dealing with millions and millions of people's dollars, you have a greater responsibility to protect that money. You have one shot at this. You screw that up and done. It's over.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is the reason I really like the bigger properties now is going back to the example of, let's say it's $1,000 a unit per month rent when you buy it, and then within a year you raise it all to $1,200 month a unit rent. That's $200 a month times 100. That's $20,000 a month cash flow. And times 12 months in a year, that's whatever it is. What is that? $240,000 in cash flow. And if you're at a 5% cap rate, we just raised the value of the building by $120,000. And the cool thing, and people are asking, what about all the expenses? Well, the good news is once you purchase a property, the expenses are relatively fixed. Yes, they'll creep up a little bit because just like, with the supply chain problems, things are, material costs more and things like that. That's a given. But what I'm getting at here is, for the most part, costs are relatively fixed. So anything you do to increase the revenue goes right to the bottom line. It's a top end value add. And that's how the REITs work, real estate investor trusts. And we're doing in syndications what the big REITs are doing. They understand the market, the rental market. They understand market values and how to achieve, top end market value, and then they can sell or perhaps refinance. And really, guys, this is the game here. If you think about that, if you had a single family home and you raise rent $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year cash flow. At a 5% cap rate, you've only raised your value by $1,200. So you do the math on that. $1,200 versus $120,000. It's a big difference, and that's the power of big multifamily. So, and once you've done the smaller stuff, I promise you can do the bigger stuff. Can it be scary at first? Absolutely. So it was scary riding a bike too, but you learn to ride a bike. Hey, we're getting close to the end here, Sunil, but I want to ask you any final words of wisdom, or actually, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in investing in Northern New Jersey or any other area you're investing in? What's the best way to reach you? Website, email, things like that,
You can actually check me out on Couva Capital, COUVA capital.com, on my cell number 201-954-0292. Just a quick note, it is so much easier getting financing on, let's say, a $50 million building than maybe a $500,000 property.
Yeah.
Different scales.
I agree.
And if you had a two-family and you lost one tenant, whether it's eviction or what have you, you lost 50% of your income. If you have 100 units and you lost 5 tenants, it's really nothing.
Yeah.
The money's still coming in. Income is there.
Yeah. It was an interesting revelation when I bought that first, went from 9 units to 78 units. In the underwriting, the lender actually didn't care about me. They never even cared about my income or W-2 or anything like that. It was based on the decision was based on the debt coverage ratio. So the decision to give a loan to me to buy that property was based on the performance of the building, and that performance would be there whether I'm there or not. And so people who are intimidated by moving up and scaling up to bigger properties, just listen to Sunil. He's correct. You'll find that it's actually easier. You have to do the analysis. You got to present a good case to them, but you could be, maybe not have the best credit. Maybe all your income's being used to pay expenses, but the fact is, if the building works, the building works.
Yep.
So, yeah.
You'd always want to do your stress test. You'd always want to find out, how many tenants or how many vacancies you could have and still pay the rent or still pay the mortgage rather. So you always need to do that. Not saying you're going to not collect rents, but it's a good practice to have.
I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody, this has been a good one. This was unique. We've had a lot of podcast interviews over the years, but this was probably the first one really got into this level of detail on big multifamily relative to doing syndication. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you could please, when you're done listening, please give a review to Sunil's podcast interview here. It's what makes the podcast world go around. We all support each other, and we love it when this is basically free for you, obviously, and giving a review really helps people out. So we appreciate that. And while you're out there, check out Sunil's website, okay? And also while you're there, go back to the globalinvestoragent.com website. If you're an investor, you can pick the investor agent you want, and more than half of the United States and Canada. And if you're an agent, if you're in northern New Jersey, check out Exit Realty, owned by Sunil in Jersey City. And elsewhere, just if you're an agent, go to globalinvestoragent.com there, and you can click on a button to get a interview or consultation, or just pick somebody's brain. It's a smart thing to do in today's economy. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Sunil, for contributing. God bless you and your families, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.